Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Ashley Mailloux with producer Bobby helping us out as we have a preview for the Grade 2 Kennedy Road up at Woodbine on Saturday. This race was named for the 1971 winner of the Queen's Plate, a horse who was very good up at Woodbine and then actually came down to Southern California in the Charlie Whittingham barn, had some good success. I think won the Hollywood Gold Cup in 1973 and was a Canadian Horse of the Year. Let's take a look at the field for the Kennedy Road. Ashley, I think from a class standpoint, a resume standpoint, we have to start with Nobals, who won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint a couple years ago. Grade 1 winner, multiple graded stakes winner, won this race last year. He's very good on synthetic. I think you start there, but you and I were kind of talking before. I think looks like there's three horses you could probably make a real case for on the top end. Nobals, Western Whirl has really good speed. Lucky Score going to come from off the pace. I think the other three are a little trickier. They're not in the best of form right now. They probably need a little bit of a reversal based on their recent races.
Yeah, and in terms of the horses that were nominated and versus the ones that entered, some horses didn't come. That includes Simcoe, who I think would have been a major threat. So
Yep.
I agree. I think it really comes down to three horses and maybe really two for the top pick. You mentioned Noble's going to try to defend his title. We'll see what ends up happening from a pace perspective. I think, though, early on, they should be motoring.
Let's take a look at that pace projector and see what Timeform US thinks. It's always interesting in a smaller field like this where you could have no balls is really quick, gets the inside draw. The two Western Whirl, really quick. The three reloads Rascal, pretty quick. I wonder if he maybe was a little bit fresh and down on the inside. I don't know if he's quite as quick as the other two, but it's funny on the projector, he's actually in front of the other two. Any of those three down on the inside wouldn't shock me if we saw them kind of pushing it, or if we saw them kind of fine being 1, 2, 3 and all kind of sitting behind each other.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I would think Western World could potentially be the pace
I
setter a
think so
little bit
too.
more so. You bring up the point about Reloads Rascal. I mean, that was the first start in quite some time, a really lengthy layoff over a year. And speed like that, he really hadn't shown in terms of being that forward since his first two races of his career back in 2022. So I would think it'd be more Western Whirl and Nobles. But I mean, obviously, Reloads Rascal, he's not slow, Gino, so he could be
No,
involved.
exactly. And in a small field, sometimes it's a rider's race. They'll be jockeying for position. Let's meet the field here for the Grade 2 Kennedy Road. This one's going to go as race number 10 at Woodbine on Saturday, 6 furlongs and 175,000 up for grabs. No Balls won the 2023 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, Ashley at 12-1. What's really cool about him is his versatility. He's shown you he can win races on the lead where they go 21-2 and 43-2, or he can come from well off the pace. He can sit mid-pack like he did here, where he comes up just a little bit short behind No Nate Hudson. But if you're looking at a favorite and you're trying to poke holes in them, and as gamblers, that's our job. We have to try to beat these horses. I mean, he's proven at Woodbine. He loves the synthetic. He loves this trip on the synthetic. He's shown us he can win in different ways. And it's just a really good spot for him where he's a lot more proven than most of this field.
Yeah, I think the surface switch actually helps him. And I'll be honest, when you go back to the Near Arctic, I know he only misses by a neck, but he was still, in my opinion, clearly second best when you look
Agree.
at None Hudson. The problems early on in the race, and Pablo Morales actually expressed that in post race. But horse wasn't ready to go, and obviously was towards the back and at the back and made a late rally. So Noble's just second best last time out. I do think though I prefer him locally on this surface in comparison to the turf. And there's also the additional furlong. I think, his running style has changed a little bit. He's not as fast as he once was, but he could still be the quickest out of the gate come Saturday, or he could also sit just off of it. That's kind of worked out in his favor in a couple of, those more recent victories.
You just feel like he's got the options from in there, right? He can go it quick early, make him work. Maybe he can sit off the pace a little bit. If he wins this race, you could look back and see him winning it in different ways, and that might not be the case for some of his other rivals in here, like Western Whirl, who I think he's got a big shot to win this race, Ashley. But for him, it's probably going to be on the lead if he does, because he's really quick. We haven't seen him come from off the pace at all, and I think the same can be said with No Balls as with Western Whirl, just being a little bit better at like 6 furlongs, maybe 6.5 furlongs. 5 is a little sharp for him, and I think you could see he was battling with other horses there and probably just had to work a little bit too hard early on. I wonder if he's able to get out front and breaks, alertly, if he's able to get to the lead, kind of crossover, and everyone else is content sitting, second and third in here. I think that's his best chances because when you get to 7 furlongs, that's probably a little far for him. So I think you can really isolate races in his career from like 6 to 6.5, where he might be at his best. What do you think about Western Whirl?
Pretty much I would agree with that. I think when you go to the New Arctic, it was 5 furlongs. It was on the inner, tighter turns, just going too quick and didn't have anything left. And I just think, again, Nobles is probably better than him. At least, from a class standpoint, we know that. But with that said, I agree with you in your comments about Western Whirl and the distance, but I also think just getting back onto the Tapeta, I think he's able to hold a
Yeah,
little bit better. I think part of it's they're not going sub 45 in his races, really, with the
absolutely.
exception of 2 back on the Tapeta. And that was a huge effort for him. I know it equaled his mark last time out, but if you watch his win 2 back, I thought it was very, very impressive. I think kind of looking at Fraser Abley climbing aboard, he's been aboard for those 2 most recent wins. He knows this horse really well. So I think, with that all said, he's going to offer some value in here.
Reload's Rascal is a talented horse, Ashley. This horse has won 5 of 10 starts. If you win half of your lifetime starts, you've got some ability. And we can very easily look at his last 2 races and be forgiving about them, right? Because one of them came before a long layoff. The other one came after a long layoff where he sort of misses the break and then he kind of rushes up from the inside. So you can take those 2 races and probably be pretty forgiving. And if you're going back to what he was doing in June of 2024, in late 2023, those races are good. The problem is that's a long period of time now that we're looking at and wondering, can he get back to that level where he was at his A game in December 2023? That's almost 2 years ago right now. And we don't have a whole body of work since then. We have like 3 races. One of them is good. I know his A game is really good, but how much of that is kind of in there right now is what I wonder.
Yeah, he's probably got to be a little bit of a frustrating horse because he is 5 for 10, but you talked about all the gaps here in his
Yep.
resume where we don't see him for a long time. So obviously he's had his issues. I would say, looking at some of the horses that he's faced, Light the Lamp, Huntmaster, pulling an OT, those sorts of horses, they're good horses. Are they grade 2 horses? No,
Yep.
but they're decent. And I think my concern with him would be the fact that, when we saw him in the Pink Lloyd, looking at the very speedy Rockcrest or Patches of Houlihan, he was nowhere to be found. With that said, he had problems at least in one of those races. And I think, what's his best case scenario here, Gino? Is it that he makes the lead? I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to make it easy.
Me
So that's
neither.
my concern with him.
Yeah, I agree. Funny thing about this race, it's a field of 6, and we have 3 groups of 2 horses that came out of similar races. So we had the 2 from the Arctic, and we have Reload's Rascal and Lucky Score, who come into that October 18th race, that optional 80 claimer. And Lucky Score wins that race pretty nicely. Actually kept out wide, and he blows by the field late. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. He was actually 3rd in this race back in 2022. And if you just look overall, he's 20 for 30 in the money. He's pretty honest for a horse with his running style who has to come from well out of it. He's even better when you just look at the synthetic. I mean, he's 10 for 12 in the money. That's where he's absolutely at his best. But we know that he needs a little bit of pace to run at. And maybe in this smaller field, he might have a disadvantage over horses like Nobals and Western Whirl, who have a little bit more positional speed. They can kind of make their own race. Lucky Score kind of needs the race to come back to him.
He does, but kind of looking at this race, he got a beautiful setup. I think Twin Cities turned out to be a pretty handy horse. I know he's another one that, he has big races and he has so, but I've really been impressed with him. I thought the way that Lucky Score beats him in the end, the freshening did him well. He got the setup. He's going to get the setup here, I think. I don't know how
Yeah.
quick they'll go early, and they're going to go quick, knowing that the inside 2 at least, and even factoring in the 3 in here. But are they going to come back to him? That is my one concern. But obviously, go down his past performances. He is grade 1 placed. He has a ton of talent. It feels like, once they had a couple of meh performances on the Tapeta early this year, they said, let's go back to the grass. Obviously, we've had success there. And then they weren't necessarily the happiest with that. And now you have to think it's late in the year. There is no turf racing. So, they're doing the next best thing. And I think they have to be pretty pleased with the figure that came back last time out.
Yeah, and I initially thought, maybe 6 is a little bit short for him. You go
Mhm.
back through his past performances, he can absolutely get 6 furlongs. And sometimes with horses like this, 6 is actually better than longer because they go quicker and they can set it up with some of these faster horses. We'll see if it happens in this small field, but he's a pretty cool horse when you look back through his form. He really just kind of shows up with the late run. If they go quick enough, he can come and get them. We go to Awesome Bourbon, Ashley. He was the 2-5 favorite after winning 3 races in a row on October the 26th. And then he just threw in a clunker. He was down on the inside. He was saving ground, and he just didn't really have any late energy. And he lost in a race where Society's Thunder actually finished ahead of him and finished 3rd. So this is a horse who's solid, and he was coming into this race and into his last race in really good form. But I don't really know what to do coming off of that disappointing effort. They go back to the synthetic now. He's been fine on the synthetic, but he's been much better on the turf. What do we do with Awesome Bourbon?
Well, I was a little perplexed when I saw the morning line at 5-2. I thought Western Whirl would be a shorter price than him in
Yeah,
some regard. That seems pretty short. I know he's quick. He obviously has had a very great season, winning 4 races, but last year 0 for 4. And I just look at him. I don't know. His figures. I know he's got a 99, he's got a 95, but they're on the grass. They're on the inner turf course. So you're thinking 2 turns. I go back to his most recent Tapeta try. He won, he got an 81. I don't know. I'm not enamored with him in this spot. And that's no
me
disrespect to him. He's a talented horse. He's done a lot this year. He's made almost $140,000. But I don't know. There's just something about him. I don't get it 5-2.
when we were talking about a couple of these horses being better at particular distances, surfaces, he just seems one that is not quite as good going a little bit shorter on the synthetic versus some of these others, Nobals, Western Whirl. We look at them going 6 on the synthetic. That's where they're pretty good. And this horse, if we were going 7 on the turf, going a little bit longer on the grass, I would probably give him a bounce back performance. But even that, we're talking about him coming off of a really lackluster effort at a very short price when you didn't have much of an excuse visually when you're watching that race. So yeah, I would definitely need more than what he is on the morning line if I wanted to get involved with him on Saturday, Ashley. We round out the field with the horse who outfinished him last time out. That's Society's Thunder, October the 26th. He ran third. Awesome Bourbon ran fifth. Society's Thunder actually got floated really wide into the turn. He ended up finishing third, just missed second. Very consistent, but he doesn't mind settling for some of those smaller awards, right? You can see a lot of seconds and thirds there. So to me, he was maybe more of an underneath type.
Yeah, and that's how I view him. And I'm probably going to contradict what I just said. I mean, the figures, for Austin Bourbon, I mentioned he's got some big figures. Obviously, Society's Thunder, his career best is an 87, but I still like him more than the 5 here. The reason being,
Agreed.
A, I think he's going to be a better price. He's a little handy. Look at some of his races where he's been somewhat close to the pace and he's finished second, narrowly defeated or beaten by a neck. And then you can see typically what I expect from him, especially on Saturday, he's going to try to roll from off of it. How far back will he be? I don't know. I would say he's probably closer to it than Lucky Score.
I
We'll
agree.
just see how it kind of fans itself out. But, I look at some of his races. I just think there's more upside. He was only a length beaten by Lucky Score that was on the turf. He was a length beaten by, a race 3 back where he's just a neck behind Western Whirl. And these are horses that I like in this spot. So I don't know. I find him really intriguing. I know, he's just 2 for 20 on the synthetic, but I'd prefer him. I think there's a lot more, appeal and just a better price on him and maybe the better setup. I really don't know what to do with the 5 Awesome Bourbon. I just like Society's Thunder more.
Round out the field for the Grade 2 Kennedy Road. It's race number 10 on Saturday at Woodbine. We'd always love to hear from you. Drop a comment in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let us know who you like in here. Ashley, as we move to selections, I think we have the same top 3, just in a slightly different order. And you have the most likely winner of the race who's just able to adapt. And he's shown us his class through the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see him back on this surface at Woodbine. I thought he ran well last time out, but I think he's got a big chance here to defend his title. He's handy. He's not going to be out the back, right? He's going to be very close to it, especially with the inside draw. And I think, Rafael Hernandez hasn't ridden him a ton, but he knows him well enough.
Hoping that Western Whirl is able to get out of the gate quickly, crossover, and that maybe Reloads Rascal, who showed speed last time out, will take back a little bit, second off the bench. And if the two can cross over on no balls, maybe we get the wire to wire, gate to wire winner of Western Whirl. It's a tricky little race. Looks like down on the inside, those are the two that might really dictate how things play out with their speed down there. No balls and Western Whirl. 1, 2, 4, 6 for Ashley. 2, 1, 4, 5 for me. However you play them, we wish you the best of luck.